Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
And welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller, and my guest today is Kumar Srivastava from Turing. Welcome, Kumar.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So just a little bit about us, right? And then we're going to get right to Kumar. Is we are a performance growth company, and we customize and install AI systems to power growth and drive efficiency. And for everyone that doesn't know, when your company is AI powered, you get at least a 2 to 5x multiple. And that's why we're very, very vested in that, right? Kumar, let's get to Turing. Let's talk about your background, right? How did you talk about your career journey and how you got there, and then we'll jump into Turing.
Sure. I started my career at Microsoft long time ago, right out of my master's program. I was actually in a PhD program working on voice over IP stuff. And then I realized, in a reasonable amount of time that I was not cut out for a PhD. And that was not what I thought.
You had a shelf life with school, right? You needed to get your hands in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd been, so I completed my master's and I joined Microsoft as an engineer. So I started writing code specifically on, it used to be a security software suite that Microsoft had, which is now through various iterations has become, it's what's called Microsoft Defender. So worked on the very, very early versions of that, which was anti-phishing, anti-spam, a firewall on your laptop, antivirus, anti-spyware type of software. So it's basically trying to protect consumers. It was a consumer offering. It would run on PCs across the world, and I would work on different types of capabilities on how do you keep these laptops updated and secured, and while making sure that the laptops themselves didn't, or desktops at that time now, didn't just croak under the pressure of running all of this security stuff. So security and performance, putting it all together. And then I spent quite some time in the online services in Microsoft, in Hotmail, Messenger, online services. And then from there, I spent some time in the search engine space in Bing. And then after that, I actually moved to the Bay Area. I joined a startup called Apogee that was revolutionizing APIs at that time, APIs on how you integrate systems together, how you connect for modern web applications or mobile applications with backend services. I spent some time there.
That's still a hot button issue for so many companies.
It's still. I mean, those companies, so much acquisition and mergers and movement happened in the market, and it's still becoming, it never goes out of fashion, because now with AI, now you have a different class of APIs that have to be designed and standards have to be built around inferencing. How do you do inferencing at scale? How do you expose your trained models as services so that they can be consumed at the edge on a mobile device, in the data center and so on. So, I spent quite some time there, and then worked on a few other startups on cloud BI, worked on supply chain optimization, worked on e-commerce and merchandising optimization, and my latest role at Turing, focusing on formulations in the CPG world, formulating and reformulating products. The common thread has been, it used to be machine learning, is what it used to be called. When I started Microsoft, we were using machine learning support vector machines to detect if a particular email is junk or not junk, malicious or not malicious. And since then, I've been using ML and then AI and now foundational models and large language models for the last, my entire career, so 20 years or so, of having seen all the iterations and the movement in the AI space and how things have evolved. And interestingly, what now AI is meant, or is thought to be meant, what it has become now, which is this idea of just, I think the most basic or the most common understanding is that it's a chatbot and you can talk to it, which it is true. But, there's 10 other flavors of AI.
There's so much more to it, right? That's why I feel like it's dumbing it down, right?
I think it dumps it down, but also it's a very easy way to explain. I've been in this for so long that we've seen, and as a vendor and as a practitioner, but as a vendor selling AI powered products, you see the question marks on our customers' faces. What is AI? And explain to me what is it doing? And I think what the latest wave starting last couple of years with this idea of a chatbot, at least you can say it's become easier to explain, because now you can say, look, there is an intelligence that understands what you're asking for it to do, and it can respond with something that's very useful for you. Now, that paradigm can be applied to many different problems and scenarios. So a chatbot is a chat interface is just the means to an end, but you can talk to this intelligence in many different ways, and you can ask it to do many different ways. And over time, it gets really good at understanding what you're asking it to do. And so it can do things for you that you didn't think were possible, or you thought could not be automated or could not be simplified. And so I think it has focused the attention on one type of machine learning or AI, but it has also at the same time made it easier to explain. And once you explain it to the people that actually have the problem that needs to be solved and can be solved with AI, then you can see the wheels in their brain turning. Right. And they can say, okay, so if I could predict this, or if I could get this response, then I would automatically feed it into this environment and I could get some sort of a problem that's always plagued me addressed and solved. So it is very useful. I think it's been a very positive development.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I think I'm trying to remember the book I read, and I think it's Mr. Fuller's, quote of, if you can it's rather than explain, if you can give someone a tool to experience it. I think that's what OpenAI has done more than anything. And, for ChatGPT is put a tool in everyone's hands to go, wow, it's starting to unlock the ideas of what's possible. But it's just, like you said, it's just one of. So talk to me about Turing and the impact, like the type of projects you work, and maybe give the audience a couple kind of use case or stories that you have with clients.
Yeah. So Turing Labs focuses on formulation. So what we do is we work with R&D departments at very large CPG companies. And these are companies that are making things like food and beverage items. They're making household supplies, personal care items, anything that requires a bunch of ingredients to be put together in a specific percentage value to create a formula that has the specific outcomes that you're looking for that product to do. So, if you're making a perfume, you want people to like it. So, if somebody were to rate that perfume on a scale of 1 to 5, you want 5. So you want 4s and above. So what we do is we work with these customers that which have these R&D departments that have many different types of tools, everything from ERP systems to spreadsheets, and all of the intelligence and data and expert knowledge is all embedded in these systems. What we do is we pull out everything that they've done in the past, any sort of experiments they might have run that put together a particular recipe, tested it in a lab and said, oh yeah, this works or this doesn't work. What we do is we take all of that data and we run it through our proprietary machine learning, and we train models that can be used to find the recipe that meets a particular business objective. So imagine, the marketing team saying, we need to launch this new product. Let's use salsa. They want to launch this new salsa, and they want the spiciness to be a little bit higher because they're targeting a specific demographic. So how would the process that it gets kicked off at that point from that department to the R&D team requires a lot of discussions, a lot of documentation, a lot of information has to be captured, and then experiments have to be designed to create these recipes, build them at scale, test them in the market, and what we do is, that process is very long. The numbers we see are, some products take years to bring to market, and obviously that's not ideal because sometimes you have a trend that you think you can capitalize on. And if it takes you years to put something in the market, you've lost that opportunity or you've lost it to a faster moving competitor. So what we do is we make it faster, easier, and cheaper to ideate on new products and bring them to market. That's fundamentally our value proposition is we are simplifying and reducing the cost and complexity and the likelihood of going down the wrong path and coming up with something that would not work. We use the power of machine learning, the power of pattern recognition and prediction to when an idea comes up of a particular recipe, we want to be able to say, yes, this will likely work or this will not work, and this is why. so that our users, our formulators can adjust and run the experiments that are needed to figure out what are the best ways to meet that objective that they've gotten from their business. So that's in a nutshell what we do. We're a web app that we operate in our cloud. We're a multi-cloud setup, and essentially it's every user that represents a CPG company gets their own customized machine learning trained models that can offer them an understanding of how their ideas are like to perform in the real world, and they can use that to decide to reduce the cost of testing in the real world, which is very expensive, by eliminating bad ideas, only focusing on the good ones, or being able to say, yeah, we've never tried this. Can I try this? Would this likely work? And could this be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for me? So being able to uncover areas that they haven't explored for whatever reason, and doing that scientifically and efficiently so they can uncover new areas of innovation.
Wow. That's amazing. And you start to think about, if you think about the way products were developed in the past, right? And the whole adage of, I have this great idea, the way a lot of products were developed is, I have this great idea. Let's go see if there's a market for it, right? At least we got smarter about that and said, okay, let's figure out what the market's asking for, right? And now let's build a product for it, or a solution for it. And what you guys are doing is bridging that gap and basically putting those two together, which, that's not an easy thing to do. So the way that you're crunching that, I would imagine that your clients are like floored by what is possible when you start to put those together. Because I would imagine you're looking across the competitive landscape and say, here's our differentiator, and right, and then you create the formulary behind it that matches that. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, it could be, I think once our users start to see the potential of the system, then they start to think bigger, right? So maybe you were planning to introduce 3 new products this year. What if you could introduce 6, right? So if the success rate is 1 in 3, because consumer preferences
every CFO's dream. You just answered right. Every CFO's
dream. So you can do more with the same or even less, which doesn't mean that you have, you're removing the need for the current process or the current way of working. What you're doing is that we're introducing efficiency, so you can do a lot more. You can try out a lot more ideas. You can try a lot more hypotheses that you can test. And if you can do it scientifically and you learn with every attempt, what that means is that the more you work with our system, the more likely you're to find the really good idea.
Right.
And
so
the more you can innovate faster.
Loop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the feedback is, this whole system is designed around feedback. Is I might not know anything about a product, and I can come into the Turing system and say, give me some suggestions on what I should try out, and it'll give you some suggestions. As soon as you put in the feedback, I like this, I don't like this will work, this did not work, I tried this out, it doesn't smell good. The system uses that information, learns from it, and then the next idea that it comes up with is now much better and more likely to work according to those constraints that the user has just told us, which means that within a few attempts, you are looking at something that you haven't tried out in the past, that leverages all your knowledge and experience from decades of formulations. So it's going to work, and it's likely to exceed or even lead to new areas of innovation because you've never actually tried it. So you verified that it will work given what you've done in the past, but it's an area that you haven't tried out, which means it's an area of innovation that might unlock a whole new market or a whole new segment for you.
Yeah, you're bringing like 3 worlds together, which is really, really cool, right? From the consumer demand, right? Product market fit to the formulary, right? And helping the product development team. So that's really, really strong value. And I would imagine you have some really cool use cases for sure. So Kumar, tell me a little bit about how like tools like this and platforms like this, I feel like one, as a consumer, we're all going to benefit because you're going to bring better products, help bring better products to the market faster. And, everybody who doesn't know what CPG is, consumer packaged goods, which spans a big, big marketplace. So we should all be excited about this platform. But Kumar, tell me a little bit about how you see this impacting, right, things going forward. As you look down the next 1 to 2 years, right, I would imagine you'd start to, maybe you measure yourself on how many of your products rise to the top of Amazon? I don't know, right? Because you work with so many clients, right? But I don't know what your scorecard is, but I would imagine this is going to accelerate great product in innovation, but also it's really going to hone in, like you said, that product market fit to where they can bring more products faster to market.
Yeah. I think the biggest, so, if you walk down a grocery store and you walk through the aisles, anything that's in a package, and this was again a revelation for me because I was not part of this world. I joined
Right.
Turing and
Right.
I started
you come
getting
from a digital part.
Yeah, I come from mostly digital products.
Yeah.
And so you realize that every item in a grocery store that's packaged in a box or shrink wrap or whatever it is, went through a process, a painstaking process of making sure that the product is not just, the basics, like it's safe and it works according to the regulations in the market where you're selling it, but also it is something that the consumer will like to buy and spend money. And then not just try it out, but keep coming. So the dream is that you build something or you create something that a consumer wants to try it out because the messaging is and the claim that you're making with that product is so attractive, but also they keep coming back. It becomes part of their habit, their stable. And so getting to that's the goal here, is to create products that consumers love and continuously keep buying and investing their time and money in it. The way we get there, the problem is that prevent that from happening is, one, it takes time to create something that's extremely valuable and safe and tastes well or works well. But then you have this other challenge where, let's say you're making in the salsa example, you're using tomatoes. Tomatoes are grown 2 times a year. And depending on, if there was extra smoke in the air or there was more acidity in the soil, the taste profile changes. So it's a very complex problem, which I didn't appreciate before I joined Turing, is that the tomatoes are changing every year or every, twice a year, which means that for you to create the salsa that has to taste the same over, multiple batches, how do you do that? And so that's where the machine learning and AI comes in. But also it might be that one year you might have a shortage of tomatoes because the crops had what's going on with eggs right now. In the US, there's a shortage of eggs. So how do you continue to bring products how do you continue stocking up the shelves with products that use eggs in whatever form, powdered egg or, and there are different types of eggs. How do you make sure? So you still need to produce that product and keep it on the shelves because that represents a lot of value for a company. But we have to deal with this supply chain disruption, which can, make or break. If you have a break of, let's say, 3 months where you could not ship your product, now suddenly you've lost that opportunity and somebody else, the consumers have decided to go to something else and you might have lost that business forever. So supply chain disruptions, if you remember recently, this was a couple of weeks ago where the FDA banned red dye number 43 or something, which is known to have chemicals that have been used in so many products now because it's banned. Or maybe if a company says, we're going to make healthier products for consumers. For you to deal with these problems where you have to switch out the ingredients that go into your products, but keep the flavor profile and the health profile and all of that stuff the same. That's a very complex problem because you're working in extremely constrained environments, and being able to hit these objectives without changing too much such that the personality of the product doesn't change or it remains the same is very hard. And these are problems that have impacted this industry. I mean, crops happen every year, supply chain disruptions happen all the time. New ingredients show up, existing ingredients get banned, or you realize that they're not good for the consumer, or there's something better that can help you make a better product. And so you have to. So what we see in this world, what we see is, and that's the future we're building, is that these when these events happen, these disruptive events around supply chain and new ingredients and or just any sort of change, when they happen in a CPG, we want them to think of it as opportunities to innovate and not as a headache that they have to deal with and that impacts their current plans.
I would imagine they've never looked at it that way.
I mean, I think we know they've wanted to look at that, but the tech hasn't been able to deliver on that promise yet. So if you don't have the right support from a technical perspective, you're relegated to thinking of the problem in a very second fit in the human brain. So what that means is that you say, okay, I can control these 4 or 5 things and I can't control the other 50 things. So I'm just going to focus on controlling the 4 or 5 things. But with AI, you can control all 50 things or hundreds of variables that can be put together. So the technology was not there, but now it's there. And so now, all of these problems and challenges can be dealt with, and new innovation can be done. And our goal is to not, put an additional burden. Or I mean, you can do more with less, more innovation, more dealing with these random events that are not really random. They just happen at a certain frequency all the time, and being able to ensure that you have business continuity and you don't lose market share, and you can innovate and capture new market share or market share from your competitors by creating better products.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. I love it. This is a really, really cool technology, and I'm excited to see what kind of products, you guys are able to drive out of this. So you kind of give me the look down at the next couple of years. Tell me a little bit. I told you I was going to ask you, in the beginning of, so what's something cool you've done with AI yourself? Like, maybe not, the Turing system, but what's something cool that you've done recently or in the last few months?
Well, just like everyone, I think that the builders of these systems, these LLMs, even they don't realize what kind of problems could be solved or can be solved. So it's always a discovery. And when we use these tools, all these tools that I've built now on top of these LLMs to, we use them to understand the market. We use them to design new user interfaces. We use them to write code for us. We use them for, creating training material for our users. I mean, it's everywhere. But personally, I do spend a lot of time looking at, what tools can fit better in our stack to make our value proposition even stronger. This could be open source tools. It could be proprietary licensed tools. And just that process of deciding to buy something, both in my personal life or in my professional life, just, where you invest your resources.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like now I don't even start that thought process without first typing it in and asking the AI to think from my context and say, okay, I'm trying to do this, and this is what I do, and this is what I'm looking for. Now tell me what you would. What has really become, for any sort of research I do for buying something for myself or my family or for the company, starts with that process. And what I found is, earlier, like if you would go to a bunch of forums and you would do a bunch of, you would review sites and, you might ask your friends. And now all of that doesn't need to happen. You just simply go and ask. And then that gives you, I think by default or right away, you get 60% of the way just by getting the response, because it has summarized everything there, at least, right? And then it tells you, you can have a conversation with the AI to get a better understanding, or it has given you enough that your next set of activities are going to be more structured. So even if I really wanted to, I like what the AI is returning, but let's say I don't trust it because I don't know how it was trained and all that. And I'm always going to trust my network of peers for some recommendation. But even that conversation is, instead of being open-ended and saying, hey, I'm trying to do this, what do you think? Where should I start? I can say, hey, I'm looking at these 3 options. What would you suggest, given what you know about myself? So,
and then you can compare it against what you got, right? Yeah.
Right. And so you're more effective at any decisioning that you might need to do. Now, I haven't used it. I've been, I like to travel. I haven't used it for travel planning scenario, which I keep hearing about. You can say, I
keep hearing that too. Yeah. That's my next. I want to play with that too.
Right. And see what it comes up with. But, again, it's going to take care of the travel sites that give you the top 10 things to do in this location. Now, what you get is you don't have to go read that and figure out the 10 things and then now make your, 5-day itinerary to fit those 10 things. You just tell the AI, I'm here from this day to this day. I want to do the most important things that this place is known for. And I also want to try out this food. And this thing will make a calendar for you. And you can say, I'm aggressive, so, pretend I'm always on the go. I don't want to sit, even for a minute.
Or I'm the opposite. I only want to do one thing a day. Right.
Yeah. And I want, I'll be in Spain and I want to do a siesta every day. So it's going to, so that complexity of converting information into an action plan I think that's really, and that's what our product does. And that's what I discovered new ways to leverage this stuff in, things that I didn't think were possible.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's really where, in personal planning and personal, purchases, or, like my kids are going to go to college at some point soon. So I've been thinking of doing
It
assessment
will
with
help college planning for
ChatGPT.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a parent who should be spending more time doing this, but is not. So
Yeah.
what should
But
I
now
do?
you're going to look like a
I'm
hero.
sure
You're
give me
like,
a good plan.
wow, Dad, how did Dad do all
Right.
of this? Why he's working?
Right. Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing. I mean, kids in school these days, I mean, they are, the cool thing is that they are told, or at least the ones I'm familiar with, there are certain times where it's okay and certain times it's not to use these tools.
Right.
But I mean, they're, yeah, it's everywhere. I mean, even if you try not to, and that's why I think of it as Google, right? What Google did 20 years ago, where it just started condensing high quality information. This is just the next
Faster.
evolution. It's just doing that, but it's condensing it in your content, right? It was all, if somebody typed in the same request on Google, they'd like to see the same 10 results, right? But now you can put your context in. So, I'll have different contexts, prompts saved on my laptop, and I'll pick the one that I'm trying to act like at that time and give it to the system. And eventually, once you start personalizing Gen AI for at the user level, those contexts and when those prompts are used in different ways, the system will start learning from that. And then so you might be a day where you just say, I want to do this, and it knows everything about you and what you've done in the past. And just like Google got smarter, I think this stuff gets more personalized over time in the next year.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. All right. Last question. Tell us something that you think is the key to, and again, I know it's not you being the CTO, not your area of expertise, but as you see Turing growing, what's the key for Turing to grow? Is there a big blocker or a big lever that you see in the CPD space?
I would say our challenge in front of us is, how do we make this technology, or the technologies we are putting together in this product, how do we make it more accessible to more and more users who, are not familiar with the technology, but also maybe they're not familiar or haven't been exposed to the idea of how to leverage this tech to do their jobs faster, better, more effectively. I think that adoption and bridging that gap, and proving that there is value in the time that's required to set up the system, because it pays for it again and again, and how it optimizes any input that you give in, any effort that you put in, how that makes your future that much more effective, and the same problem gets easier to solve in the future. I think a lot of this challenge is explaining what this can unlock, and building the trust with users to grow on the journey, because I'm a technologist, I'm not a formulator, right? So for me, building that product requires understanding them, understanding the formulator, what they do, what drives them, what pressures they face, timeline or deadlines or objectives. But to understand that, and this is true with any product development, you have to understand the mind, which means you have to convince them to spend time with you, which means that you have to build in the trust, which means you have to show some early proofs of success. And so I think that's really the blocker or to growth or adoption in general for any tech, but for any product-driven company, is understanding and getting into the minds of the users and creating the early wins and the trust to allow for the users to say, yes, if I spend this 30 minutes with this product, it'll make my life easier, right? So explaining what's in it for me in a way that it is effective and addresses any concerns they might have about the tech or about the time that's required to be invested. That's really what will drive adoption, across for us, but also for any sort of AI tech out there.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. I'm like so excited. And again, I know some product creators, and I can't wait to, point them to this podcast and say, you just come listen to Kumar talk about Turing, because it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing time.
Yeah. Well, Kumar, this has been a phenomenal talk. I love hearing about your technology. I love cutting edge, disruptive, innovative technologies that can only help, right? Again, our theme here, AI or digital coworkers, right? Turing is absolutely a product creator's best friend. formulary's best friend, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do this year. So, and the years to come. So, Kumar, for everybody out there that wants to find out how they learn more about Turing, I know we'll put all the links down here below, but tell them how to get in touch with Turing.
Yeah, it's turingsas.com is our website. We're on LinkedIn also, but you can drop us a line if you're interested in what we are doing, or even just how we are doing it. I think even we're learning, and because we have the trust of our customers and users, we are constantly being forced to innovate. I mean, I would love to say we innovate just because we are innovative, but I think just keeping up with our customers and users and what their specific needs are. There's a lot of stuff we're learning that I think is relevant across the board in any domain, in any industry. But you can reach us through any of those mechanisms.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you again for spending the time with us today. It's been a pleasure. And that concludes our episode of this Future Proof podcast, where AI and business collide. So, Kumar, thank you. And we will get this thing up and live.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.